the way I like to roll. So if you got a Bible, you'll want to take it out. We're going to be looking at another story that Jesus told. It's a parable. Some people don't like the parables. They're like, I can't understand the parables. They're kind of confusing. If there's one of them that's a little confusing, this is probably it, the one that today. Because you read the story and you begin thinking to yourself, is Jesus really commending the guy that's in this story? Is he saying that we should do what this guy's doing? Because the guy's crooked. The guy's a nightmare, and you're like, how is he doing? How many of you ever been in management? Any of you ever been in management? Some of you have been in management. Or maybe you had a manager, and how many of you had a good manager? Nobody had a good manager. Okay, we've had some people that had good managers. When I was in Seattle, I was the sales manager of a real estate firm. But management is this process of, they start giving you responsibility, right? To run other people's stuff and take care of other people's stuff. One of the things that was really hard about, I think it was 2008, it was just after the real estate market crashed and everything was really bad, 2007, 2008, Julie and I had this bright idea that we would buy a duplex in Peoria. Right? Because you could buy a duplex in Peoria. I found a duplex in Peoria for $23,000. And I said, boy, that's a deal. Because the rent was going to be, they were bringing about $400 to $450 per unit. And I thought, well, that's really nice cash flow. That's going to be good. And so I was thinking about that. Here's the problem, though. We ended up buying this thing. And I said, I need a property manager. And so I went looking for a property manager. And everybody told me no. They all said no. And I'm talking about people that's what they do for a living. Like, that's all they do is property management. I'm talking the big people in Peoria, that's their business. They manage. They said nope. And I was like, what do you mean no? They said, we don't manage stuff in that area. In that area? What do you mean in that area? Oh, no, we don't manage in that area. So it's right by St. Francis Hospital in Peoria, right? Kind of close to there. And I was like, and it didn't look that bad to me. I was like, all right, so I had to find, but I'm an absentee owner, right? I'm absentee there, and I've got people that are in there, and people got to get evicted, people got to stay in, we got to get the rent, you got to fix stuff, and stuff's breaking all the time, and there's a lot to do, and I'm not there, so I need somebody from a distance to manage that thing and be the manager, right? And so we found this guy that lives in, I think he lived in Toulon, and asked him, and he went there because he was in Peoria a lot of time, and he did a lot of inspecting of houses and things like that. He was a house inspector, and he came and he worked and he did the thing. But man, I'll tell you what, after about, that was a really costly education for me. I lost a little bit of money on that deal, and you know what? You can go to college and spend a bunch of money on college, or you can do something and do it wrong and learn all about it. And I learned a lot. Boy, I'm a stinking genius now when it comes to not owning absentee property, right? It was crazy. The story that you're going to see today is much like that, except the guy and the owner isn't the sharpest tool in the shed either in here. You're going to find out, okay? So watch this. Look at Luke, and we're looking at Luke chapter 16. And the title of it is The Shrewd Manager. Shrewd. You know what shrewd is? Shrewd's like really wise, really kind of crafty, able to come up with good solutions on the fly, got some street smarts, knows how to, that's shrewd. This is what the story says. Listen to this. It says, Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So let's just get right to brass tacks. You got a guy that's the manager. He's managing the property. Imagine yourself in that story. You own a property or you own a business and you're not close by, and so you hire somebody to manage it, and you hear through the grapevine that the dude that's managing your stuff is not managing it well, wasting your stuff, right? Spending money where it shouldn't be spent, and you don't approve, and you hear this through the grapevine. And so it says here in verse 2, so he called him in and asked him. So there's some distance here. He calls the guy in. What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management because you cannot be manager any longer. That's Donald Trump voice for you're fired, right? You're fired. But here's the problem with this manager. As I've thought this through this week, this manager does something really not wise. He says you can't be manager anymore, but give an account of all the stuff that you've been doing. Well, that's a problem. Right? Because he's allowing this guy to continue on as the manager He didn't say, you know what, you got a half hour, get your stuff out of your desk drawer and go. He says, no, I want you to stay here. You're still in charge of all the stuff. Give me a reporting of all the things. No, get that guy out of here is what you should have said. I'll bring in a new person to look at the books that you just leave them and we'll look at it. That's not what this guy does. This guy actually says, give an account so that we can do this and we'll be in good shape, right? That gives an opportunity for the shrewd manager. Okay? The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? Now what am I going to do? You ever been in that position where you lost your job for one reason or another? Right? I've been in there where all of a sudden you find yourself without a job and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do now? And you start thinking all the scenarios. You're like, man, I got a kid, I got a wife, I've got a mortgage, I've got a car payment, I've got all this going on. I can't save for retirement. What am I going to do? And I'm nervous and I'm scared. And that's what this guy, he's nervous and he's scared. He says, what am I going to do? And here's the main thing is because what's his business? Managing. He's a manager. That's what he does. He manages property. And now it's not like he can just go out and get another job like this. He's been accused of mismanaging. His reputation is kaput. He's like, what am I going to do? I can't be a manager anymore. Not only can I not manage for this guy, I can't manage for nobody. And this is what's interesting. The guy's obviously guilty, right? Because he doesn't say, well, he's giving me a chance to do the accounts. I'll prove everything's fine and I haven't wasted his money. He knows he's guilty. He goes, man, I have screwed up big time. It's a nightmare, right? I know that when he sees the books, I'm fired. So I got to come up with a plan here. What am I going to do? Verse 3, it says, the manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. Right? He's thinking all the scenarios. Saying, dude, man, I've had a pretty cushy job, right? I've been making some good coin. Probably been living on the estate, one of the estates where he's at. He's been living good, and he's like, now I actually have to work for a living. Right? I don't want to have to dig. I don't want to have to work hard. I don't have to work with my hands. I don't want to have to do that. I've had a pretty cushy job all this time. I don't want to have to do that. And more than that, I've been a pretty well-respected person. Now I'm going to be begging on the street. I'm going to have a sign, outside of Lowe's, and I'm going to be holding it there. I don't want to be that guy. Right? He's nervous and he's scared, but he's shrewd. He's shrewd. This is what it says. Watch this. It says, I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. This is a key verse here. Watch what it says. What is he trying to do? He wants to be welcomed into people's houses. Somebody's going to welcome him. Because right now, as it sits, he will not be welcomed into anybody's house. Everybody's going to be, forget that guy. That guy's a cheat. That guy's not, maybe that guy's committed fraud. We don't know. We don't want anything to do with that. We don't want, he was great at one point. Now he's not. I don't want anything to do with that guy. And here he says, I know what I'll do so that people will welcome them into my house. They're not going to welcome me unless I do something clever. Unless I do something shrewd. I got to come up with a plan to secure my future. Because my life as I see it right now is over. It is going to come to a drastic end. And when my life as I see it comes to a drastic end, how do I prepare for what's going to be after that? Let me say that again. This is a key point in the story. My life as I know it, as a manager, is about to become over. It's going to stop. And I see it. It's imminent now. I got to give reports. And when I give reports, I'm fired. I'm out on my keister. And so after that, I want there to be something that happens to me after that. I want to be welcomed. I want positive to happen to me after it ends. I'm trying to secure my future. Does that make sense? This confuses a lot of people. So here's what he does. Man, this guy's shady. This guy is shady. You ever met any real shady people? You got involved in it? Oh, man. I had a few real estate deals, man, where, Dude, somebody's tried to do loan fraud with me. All kinds of stuff that comes up over time, and you recognize it, and they're like, well, I didn't recognize it. Yeah, you did. Come on, don't give me that. Here's what it says, verse 5. So he called in each of the master's debtors. So here's what the guy does. As a manager, he is in charge of everything. So he can sign contracts. He can make deals on behalf of the owner. He can sign the name for the owner. He can write checks. He can deal with debt. He can take on debt. He can give debt away. He can do all kinds of stuff. He's got all kinds of power because he's the manager. He's been entrusted with all this. That's one of the things about management, is in this particular case, in particular, because it's from so far away, he's at a distance, he's given him pretty much power over everything. So I got an idea. Here's what he does. He says, so he called in each of his master's debtors. And we find out this guy's a pretty heavy hitter. Watch what he says. He asks the first, how much do you owe my master? And so he sits at the desk, right? And the one guy's on the one side and the one guy's on the other. And he says, hey, how much do you owe him? He goes, well, he says, I owe him 900 gallons of olive oil. Holy cow! 900 gallons of, that's a lot of olive oil. 900 gallons? And this is back then. This could take like 10 years to produce. And this is what's owed on debt to him. This guy's a heavy hitter. He says, I owe him 900 gallons of olive oil, your pride. The manager told him, take your bill, hurry, sit down quickly. Make it 450. You think, what? Did he just do what I think he did? Is this supposed to be Jesus is telling us to do this? Yes, he took $900. He owed 900 gallons of olive oil is what he owed. And on the other side, he sits him down and says, hey, hurry up, do this quickly. Because remember, when you're doing something shady, you do it quick. Right? He says, do it quickly here. Sign here real quick. That's exactly what happens. He says 450. This guy can't sign the thing fast enough. Right? I mean, imagine you owed somebody, $500,000, and all of a sudden they say, hey, how would you like it to be $250,000? Yeah, that would be good. Here, sign this paper. All right, now get out of here. That's what happens. And he does it again. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, make it 450. Then he asked the second, and how much do you owe? He's got them lined up outside. All these people, 1,000 bushels of wheat. Is that a lot? I don't know if that's a lot or not.
Semi-load.
A semi-load. That's a lot. Especially if you're doing it all the way they did it back then, right? That's a lot of money. He replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. Oh, you owe 1,000? All right, here, hurry up. Before anybody finds out. Here, sign this thing. Signs it. Gets it done. And he starts doing this with people. And why do you think he does it to multiple people? Why not just one person? Here's one, huh? What?
So he can't tell anybody else that basically that they all doing it.
You're on the right track, right? You got a whole bunch of people involved in a shady deal, right? And one person. So what happens if I take your deal and I say you owe a 900, and I say 450, and I just cut your debt by $500,000? Do you owe me? Oh yeah, you owe me. Yeah, you owe me. Yeah, you owe me. That's the feeling is going to be. And what if everybody knows that person did that, and somebody else, there's multiple people involved, and then I kind of back off and I'm like, well, I don't owe you anything. What does that do to my honor? All of a sudden, even though you were kind of dishonorable, you're dishonorable among the dishonorable. Right? There's an honor that's there. And so there's peer pressure involved here to say, hey, I got to treat this guy right. After the fact, after he's gone, I'm going to have to treat this guy good. Maybe I'll give the guy a job. Maybe I'll take care of this guy. And so watch what happens here. This is where things get a little weird. It says the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. The manager, again, mind blown, right? Are you serious? The manager, the owner, right? The guy that owns this property that just got shorted. In a sense, he says, you know what? Well played. Well played. I commend you for being shrewd. Right? Am I happy that you did it? No, I ain't happy. I'm out a lot of money. I lost a ton as a result of you. But I commend you for your shrewdness. Here's the question. Is Jesus saying that we should act shrewd? Is Jesus saying that we're supposed to cheat people like that? I mean, people have a hard time with this passage, right? Because you look at it and say, man, Jesus is saying, he's saying this is okay? No, Jesus isn't saying this is okay. Jesus is making a specific point. Okay? And we'll get to the point right now. Let's keep going. It says, the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Not because he'd been dishonest, but because he'd acted shrewdly. In dealing, for the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Who are the people of this world? The people of this world are non-Christians that are on this world, right? They're just people that live around. Regular non-Christian people, right? People of this world. It says that those people, what does it say about it? They're more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Who are the people of the light? Believers, Christians, right? So it's comparing non-Christians with Christians and saying, you know what? The non-Christians, they deal a lot better with the other non-Christians and a lot more shrewdly. Because think about it. When you're in the regular business world, it's a non-Christian person. They might be an honest person. They might not. As a general rule, they're all working for the same thing. What is that? To make money. Right? That's why they're working, to make money. It's all about money, 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 money. They want to make as much money as they can. And so what will they do? They'll do anything to make money, even if it requires acting shrewdly. This guy is obviously not a believer. This is a person that's saying, I'll do whatever I have to do to secure my future after the fact. I've got to do something, and so I'm going to secure it after the fact. What do? I'll work shrewdly. I'll come up with a plan. And he's saying, Christians, you're not as shrewd. You don't plan for the future like the non-Christians do. The non-Christians, they're planning. They're going to live for probably maybe 80 years, maybe 90 years. Maybe at the max, right? But man, they work so hard to secure a future for some of us that might only be another 40, 20 years. And I'm working like a dog and I'm doing whatever it takes to secure that next 20 years. And yet here you are, Christians, with an eternal future. I mean, I'm talking your one life of maybe 100 years total, compared to eternity, is like times a trillion. A trillion of those lifetimes. A trillion of those lifetimes. There's no end to it. And they're concerned about 20 years and they're working hard. And you as Christians, you have this huge future ahead of you. And you're not securing it. You're not working shrewdly. You're not doing everything necessary to prepare for what's going to come when your life is done, when you're fired. When you're fired from this life. Watch what he says here. I tell you, this is the key verse of the whole thing. Verse 9, watch this. It says, I tell you, use worldly wealth. What is worldly wealth? That is everything that's on earth. Everything that you supposedly own. Everything that you say, that's mine. Your house, your car, your clothes, everything. That's worldly wealth. It says here, Jesus tells us, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself. Gain friends for yourself. That's what he was doing in the story. So that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal blessings. When will it be gone? When you die. Or when Jesus comes back. One of the two. Why? Some versions say when it fails. When your wealth fails. In other words, once you die, all your wealth has failed. You ain't going to use it. You know, I'm 90 years old, I get myself a new car, and I use it for like five minutes. Right? But boy, I invested a lot in that car. Worked really hard to get that car. But like a couple years later, you're in heaven, you ain't got that car. You didn't get to take the car with you. Right? You're like, I got this nice house, and I've really built this house. It's great. And I spent all my money, all my earthly wealth I've spent to make this house just perfect. And then you die, and you know what? Somebody else gets it. Somebody else gets your house. Here's the thing you don't realize. It was never your house in the first place. Think about this story for a second. Did the manager own anything that he was managing? Not a single thing. But he was living large, right? Why was he living large? Because he was managing a great estate. He was managing a lot of stuff. But he didn't own any of it. All he was doing was managing it, taking care of it. And what the Bible teaches us, what Jesus is trying to teach us, is you don't own anything here. Everything that you've got, according to the book of James, it says it's all a gift coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. It's all just a gift, and God has allowed us to have it. He's allowed us to use it, and He's wondering, are you going to be faithful with what I've given you? To buy friends in heaven. Now, what does that mean? What is the only thing that you can take to heaven with you? Or that can maybe go to heaven? What's going to be in heaven? Friends. People. Right? That's what's going to be in heaven. People. Everything else you got is going to be given to you. Right? It's all going to be given to you by God. Just like everything here is given to you by God. It's all a gift. And so that's what he's saying. Watch this. It says, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves. Invest the worldly wealth here, not in temporal things. It's not that it's bad to have temporal things. It's not bad. It's not bad to have a decent car. It's not bad to have a decent house. No, that's bad. The issue is it's not bad to have little or bad to have much. It doesn't matter. We find that out here a little bit later. Watch what it says. It says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. It's not saying you should have much or you should have little, that one is better than the other. It's saying that the question is, what is your attitude? Are you honest with whatever you got? Are you faithful with whatever you have? Are you faithful? On this side, are you faithful? Because whether you're faithful on this side with temporal things, okay? Temporal things, things here on this earth, just regular worldly things. If you're faithful here with that, then when we get to the other side, God says, boy, he was faithful with those things that didn't even matter. All right. Now I know who I can trust. I know I know who can be trusted with little and who can't be trusted with little. Whoever can be trusted with very little, verse 10, can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, what is that? Worldly wealth, that's what we have here, right? Follow me? If you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? What are true riches? True riches are on the other side of getting fired from life. That's what true riches are. And he says, man, I want to trust you with true riches. So show me that you can be trusted with earthly riches over here. Because at some point you'll be fired from this life and it's over. You lost your chance. You had your chance to prove that you were a good manager. You had a chance to prove that you know how to handle what I provide for you and handle my stuff. Are you faithful or not? Verse 13. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Verse 14, the Pharisees who loved money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. Who doesn't like the message of Jesus about money? And here's something I'll tell you. About 1/3 of all the parables deal with money. And if you're like, I don't like it when the pastor talks about money, I don't like talking about money. Okay? But the problem is Jesus talks about money all the time. Why? Because money's a huge deal in our life. We spend a third of our life working to get it. So it would make sense that a third of the parables would be about it. It's central to our life. The question, though, is what's our attitude toward it? Not how much of it do you have, but what's your attitude toward it? What's your heart response to it? How do you view it? What's the perspective that you have about what you have on earth? And that's what Jesus is trying to teach us in the passage today. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts. What people value highly is detestable in God's sight." What do people value highly? Stuff. They value stuff. It's like, that's worldly wealth. Be faithful with that. I'm not saying it's not important. It's very important. That's why I'm preaching it. And in one of every 3 parables, I'm preaching about because it's important. But it's important for the purpose of being faithful with it, because we believe that we will someday be with God and that we'll be in heaven. All right? And that we will have true riches. All right? Let's go back one more time, though, to no one can serve 2 masters. Verse 13, no one can serve 2 masters. And this, I'm going to close with this. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and man. And you say to yourself, Dustin, how's come I can't serve God and man? I got 2 jobs right now. Right? I can serve this company and that company at the same time. I can do both. Right? Well, this is talking about slavery. Right? And again, God's not condoning this type of behavior, just like He's not condoning slavery. Right? What He's saying is this. He's saying that you can't be owned by more than one person. Okay? You can only have one owner. That's the point. What owns you? That's the question to think about this morning. Does money own you? Is money in charge of you? And maybe the best way to understand it is to look at yourself. Look at your life. That's what I have to do. I have to look at my life and say, what owns me? Am I owned by money? Does that call the shots in my life? Do I look for my orders from what the dollar tells me? Or do I look for my orders from what God says and be faithful with whatever He's given me? I'll just be faithful with that. Of course, I got to provide for my family. It's part of being faithful. Of course, I got to provide a place, right? It's part of being faithful. But my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus and His righteousness. Not my hope is built on nothing less than a 50 and a 20 and a 5 and a paycheck on the first and the last. What's my hope in? That's what Jesus says when He talks about the shrewd manager. Okay? Let's just pray and ask God to reveal to us what this means to us. How does this apply to us? And then we'll close. God, in Jesus' name, we thank You this morning, God, for this word. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But we know that at some point in our life we'll be fired. We'll be gone from here. We cannot be on earth anymore, just like He couldn't be the manager. We won't be able to be on earth anymore. And we will be judged by whether we prepared or not. God, we want to be faithful with what we have. And God, just like people of this earth, people that are non-Christians, they spend so much time working hard to prepare for a future that might only be a little while. God, we need to be shrewd like them, but for eternity. We need to be preparing even more diligently for what comes when we're gone. God, help us to be faithful. God, convicts us if we're not. And God, we surrender ourselves and everything we have to Jesus. In Christ's name, amen.